right, welcome to the Beam, where curiosity stirs conversations, taking us a step further into the future we desire. I'm Sunas Nathaniel, and as always, we bring you the issues that matter, the voices that challenge, and the insights that inspire. But before we get to our very important subject of discussion today, let us first bring you your quick tech update for the week. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome. Here's your quick tech update for the week. The Nigerian Immigration Service has launched a contactless passport application solution in Europe, with the United Kingdom serving as the coordinating center. This initiative leverages digital technology to simplify and accelerate the passport renewal process. The Comptroller General, Mrs. Kemi Nandab, says that the solution, which was launched on the 7th of February, will enable Nigerians in the diaspora to apply for and renew their passports online from the comfort of their homes. Meantime, the Lagos State government has partnered with Huawei Technologies to develop 4 new intelligent transport system sites across key locations within the state, aimed at improving traffic management and road safety. Lagos Commissioner for Transport, Oluwaseun Osiemi, says that the new installations will complement the existing automatic number plate recognition cameras and other traffic management solution devices. On the foreign scene, Elon Musk's world's richest person and a top advisor to the US President Donald Trump says he has no interest in acquiring social media platform TikTok's operations in the United States. In a statement, Musk knows that he did not put in a bid for TikTok and has no plans for what he would do if he had TikTok. Meanwhile, the US lawmakers have brought forth a bill to ban Chinese artificial intelligence program DeepSeek from being used on government devices over concerns about user data security. Representative Josh Gottimer, a New Jersey Democrat, introduced the bill alongside Darren Layhood, an Illinois Republican, citing an alarming threat to U.S. national security and warning of direct ties between DeepSeek and the Chinese government. And finally, Korean ministries and police say they are blocking DeepSeek's access to computers after the Chinese AI startup did not respond to a data watchdog request about how it manages user information. Now that's your quick tech update for this week. Stay tuned for more cutting-edge news from the ever-evolving world of technology. Enjoy the rest of the program. All right, welcome back. Now let's get into our discussion today. Nigeria's political landscape is a puzzle of unfulfilled promises, political uncertainty, and endless power struggles. One of the biggest issues facing our democracy today is the issue of zoning. And in recent times, we have been faced with the question, can a single 6-year presidential term be the solution to Nigeria's political quagmire? Would longer single-term tenures create stability, or would they simply make leaders less accountable to the people? Joining me to navigate this conversation are Mr. Obinna Okorie, Chairman and Executive Director of the Luminous Citizens' Rights and Human Rights Initiative, and Johnson Bond, who's a spokesperson also for that initiative. I also have joining me via Zoom Barrister Chukwuma Eziala, a legal expert and political analyst who's going to give us valuable insight into this constitutional matters. Gentlemen, you're welcome to the Beam.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's get straight to it. I'm going to begin with Mr. Okorie. One of those things I was trying to say is the reason we're having discussion on the Beam majorly is because yours is an initiative that is led by the youths, a young, leadership and everything. And the question then becomes, what informs this drive, this advocacy for Nigeria using the 6-year term for the presidency? What really informs it, and how does it really work in that research scope?
Okay, thank you. If you check, according to INEC record, database, the last election, the registered voters, we had about 93 million plus voters. The youth account for 40% of registered voters. Mm-hmm. Now, it will shock you to know that during the election, if you take the election from 1999 mm-hmm. to the last election, you will see there's a drop in terms of voter apathy. The chunk of our eligible voters are youths, but they are not voting because they are disenchanted. They believe that their votes cannot count, or it's not counting. So what's the need? They rather use their voter's card for means of identification. So in the last election, you know as well as I know that we dropped up to 20 26% thereabout voter. I'm talking of the voter apathy, and these are youths. So the essence of, to answer your question straight, this drive for a single 6-year presidential term will help correct this, abnormality in our political system, because it will now mean that once we have this in our law, in our constitution, or in our electoral act, it means that it will give the chunk of, this youth population that, ownership, that belief that their vote is going to count, and they will come out in mass to vote in our elections.
All right, let's come to you, Mr. Bond. So some people argue that, this short term can lead to instability. They can say it disrupts policy, that, while longer terms allow leaders to think beyond the immediate gains, long-term game. Yeah. So, but the question then becomes, what do you think? Will leaders use this short term to also fix the kind of things that people would have suggested that maybe 8 years would have been better for us to fix those kind of needs? Or are you saying that, hey, these 6 years, the person understands that, hey, we're going all through and that we need to get it fixed instantly?
Yes. I think anyone coming to be the president of Nigeria on a 6-year single term has this in mind, that I have to leave a legacy of good work. Unlike the 4 years term, when a president succeeded in becoming the president of Nigeria, the next thing he's thinking is returning back to power the next 4 years. So what they're doing is preparing for the next election. So they waste 4 years of their presidency on preparation for the next 4 years. This caused a lot of voter apathy, because the people will find out that this, anytime we elect a president, is the same old style. They will make promises, and when they get to the office, for the first 4 years, they cannot account for any reasonable achievement. It's just going to be suffering. And again, the cost of election in our country, the budget that INEC will always budget for election, and at the end of the year, you will find out that at the end of the electionary year, you'll find out that there is this unsatisfied election.
Even with the cost?
So we are considering that this 6 years single term for presidency will cut cost of elections. Number one, save us a lot of our national spending. Number two, it will get a lot of zone to participate, because we are not just agitating for the 6-year term. We are also looking at marginalization. He's going to, when we're talking about 6-year term, when a president assumes office, he is going to be looking at, let me leave a legacy of good work. I'm not the president. I'm not under threat of election. Nobody is going to, I'm not thinking about coming back. Let me leave something that the future generation will speak of me. So from day one, it's accountability. From day one, they are facing their manifesto. From day one, they are facing their campaign promises. From day one, they are thinking of, let's see how we can get Nigeria working.
All right.
Unlike 4 years of wasting
resources, like you would say.
Yes, sir. And then hoping to achieve another term.
All right. I think that's a strong argument. Let's come to Barrister Ezeala. You see, you've had that push for the 6-year term, and then from a legal standpoint, what would it take to amend this? But first, you must tell us, before the whole amendment and all that positioning, what's your take on this drive? And are you afraid that it could also lead to some authoritarianism, something of that nature?
Every decision has its own implication. Now, 6-year, 4-year term, they have their own implications. Now, if it's a 6-year term, it means if you have a tyrant, if you have somebody who is very corrupt, the person will be there for 6 years. You don't have an opportunity of shoving the person aside. Now, on the other hand, if you continue with 4 years, most times it touches on national unity, because if the election is heavily rigged, it can throw us into crisis. I'll give you one example. In NBA, Nigerian Bar Association, it used to be you are elected for 1 year. After 1 year, you now go for the second year and another re-election. And that was what caused the crisis in Port Harcourt. And we now, NBA now, by the time he recovered from the crisis, he now said, okay, let's do a 2 years. 2 years certainly, you're not going for re-election. So there are a lot of pros and cons. And in Nigeria today, where you have the 6 geopolitical zones that are under mutual suspicion, politicians are causing more confusion. I think it's better we go the 6 year or 5 year or 6 years. We have the National Assembly in any case, that can throw away a president that is not doing well. And that is why if you want to go for a 6-year tenure, maybe you have two vice presidents. You have a deputy vice president and you have a vice president. The deputy vice president will normally come from the zone of the president, so that if you know this is going to this zone, if the person messes up, you remove the president without sentiments from that area. So we need to think of it from that area. And then we also now look at what is the process of amendments. The Constitution made provision, adequate provision, on the way any section of the Constitution can be amended. And looking at this one in particular, anyway, to amend any portion of the Constitution, you need the vote of the National Assembly, 2/3 of the National Assembly. Now you also need that of the Houses of Assembly, that is the House of Assembly from the states. And that is how you can amend portion of the Constitution. So it will be, take for instance now, I would advise, for instance, if the current government is ready to do that, let them do that, even if it means legally they cannot do it and it will affect them. It will affect this particular government. It ought not to affect this particular government, because they were elected under a 4-year tenure. So, but however, there can be a sacrifice. So it means they are also, the president today or the governors today are entitled to another tenure. But we must draw a line. It helps us in terms of stability. It helps us in terms of, and then at that, we now think of rotational presidency. That rotational means that each geopolitical zone will have to, and it calms down nerves. But more importantly is to provide for succession. That is, when somebody becomes very bad and you need to impeach. If, for instance, somebody needs to impeach a president, and say we have the current president, and you have somebody from the southwest as a deputy president. If you're impeaching, nobody will say, oh, you're taking it to the northeast or to the northwest. Or the time we had the former president, if he was not doing well and you have a deputy president from that area, it becomes easier. Nobody will click to any sentiment. So I think it's a good area if the politicians can, if they should be able to look at that area. I think Nigeria will be better for it.
Welcome back to the Beam. I'm still here in conversation with Obinna Okorie, Johnson Bond, and Barrister Chukwuma Ezeala as we analyze whether a single 6-year presidential term can fix Nigeria's political system. Coming to you, Mr. Okorie, you heard what Barrister said about the vice presidents, the deputy presidents, 2 of them. How does this play into what you envision when you're thinking of a 6-year term?
Yes, perfectly. I want to thank the learned counsel for his own advice, because it perfectly fits into what we are envisaging. Because the president we have today, the president of Nigeria is the most powerful president in the world, if you will allow me to use that word. And having this structure, kind of restructure, having this structure, the president structure kind of restructured, we unbundle a lot of things at that level. Now, having 2 vice presidents, of course, will give, that needed, will give him what? It will give him that understand the fact that he had to be very careful. Somebody is watching him. Like the barrister said, the National Assembly is there to do their work based on accountability. If you, for example, now there is need for him to look at it. After all, I'm not going for another election, so let me be, reckless. No.
So, but you see, the question then becomes, what if he now has his friends in the parliament?
Okay.
How do you checkmate that?
Okay.
Because we are seeing a place in which the presidency and the parliament are practically in bed in many situations, right? Okay. Now the question then becomes, how do you stop him from being an authoritarian for 6 years if his men are still the men who are in parliament?
Very good question. See, you understand the roots, where this initiative is coming from. Understand the fact that what we are looking at is to create equity, to create unity. Now, we have 6 geopolitical zones. Out of that 6 geopolitical zones, we have only 2 zones dominating the presidency. It ought not to be so. If we must follow what the Constitution says, particularly in Section 14, Sub 1, it says the democracy we run should be Section 14.1. Talked about sovereignty,
the different...
Yes, the sovereignty belongs to the people.
Yeah.
Now, if I may ask, in last election, will you say the people's sovereignty spoke?
Oh, well.
It didn't, because the president won election with just 36 thereabouts percent. Okay? So automatically the people did not speak.
No, but it was still the major number of people that came out for the election, basically.
You were going back to what I said, apathy.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So it's everything boils down to this arrangement, this old arrangement so it's not favoring us. Now, if we can go and unbundle this, like you ask if the president have, of course, allies, and you see, this initiative will favor the other 4 regions or zones that are marginalized. I don't think they will sit down and ally with the president to have him, being reckless. I don't think so, from my own thinking. So they will call him to order and they will check him. So the 2 vice presidents, of course, will be, in line with, or is in line, if I may say,
all right,
what we are,
That's a good one. So let's come to you, Mr. Bon. We often speak about leadership, but what about the people? Would the system make Nigerians more engaged democratically, or would it just create a culture of, same old complacency? What if they see them not working? What happens?
I think the system is going to make a lot of Nigerians more involved in democracy. 6-year term and being spread across the 6 geopolitical zone will bring about inclusivity. So Nigerians will be able to wait for their region, for the turn of their region. And when it's their turn, every political party knew that this zone
is where the president
should come from. So everyone is selecting their presidential candidate from that particular zone. And with this understanding, the people from that zone will want to participate to make sure that they present someone from their state to be the president during the primary election. And because there is nothing at stake that will want to cause us to agitate for power when you know that
it's not your time.
It's not your time.
Okay.
You will want to involve to support. For example, I knew that someone from the Northeast should be the president of Nigeria. And the political party, PDP, APC, and the rest, NNPC, present their candidate. I would just sit back, study these guys, find out who among these guys are my choice of...
Are your best ones that can work for you?
Yes. What I'm just going to go there do is to go there from my heart and vote.
All right.
And I'm not the only one. Every other person will involve. So it will make people to just want to vote for voting sake. Vote for the betterment of Nigeria.
Right.
Vote to make sure that we achieve that unity that we're yearning for. Nigeria is a united country, but our democracy right now, because of the way it's being structured, is disintegrating this country.
All right. Okay. Let me come to Barrister. Barrister, it's beautiful what we're hearing when it comes to the way it can include people. But let's talk about good governance. And some believe that, hey, reforms should just focus on the tenure of leaders. But others are saying we need to strengthen institutions. You know, so what would it be? The 6-year tenure, strengthening the law, making sure that everybody works in coherence to ensure that the nation walks forward. How do we retweak this?
You see, when you have good political system, when you have a good president who understands what he or she should do, when you have a good political climate, or what you may call good political class, who can really think of how do you strengthen the system, then you start the movement. But when you don't have such, when you have infighting, when you have distrust, when you have non-concentration of individuals towards governance, you cannot, it will be difficult to strengthen institutions. So if you have a president that will stay for 8 years, perhaps working only for his own people, you know, perhaps some people may say, as we saw in the last administration, 8 years, you had to favor, so you're not strengthening institutions. If you know within 6 years you are leaving, you may want to strengthen institutions because you know within 6 years another person will come and then sack all those people. And then we need to have also laws that will encourage presidents, or that will make it mandatory for presidents to look at how do you have succession in different areas. So one is that we need to strengthen institutions. Number two is that we need to have political stability by allowing everybody from all parts of the country to participate. And I'm sorry that I have to go back to my base, the Nigerian Bar Association. The Nigerian Bar Association came up with this fact of the 3 zones, the northern zone, the western zone, and the eastern zone. So presidents come from this zone, first vice president comes from the same zone, so there is no problem, and there has been stability ever since they started this. Right. And it's been there for more than 20 years now. There's been stability. You can see that there is no problem. So this is one of the things. And then because of that, because you know you're going to stay for 2 years, there is this issue of trying to stabilize the system. So I guess that is where we should be at this stage. And how do you also stabilize systems? If you think of, for instance, you want to hire somebody as the Chief Justice of Nigeria, it must not necessarily be the most senior. You can have an interview that the whole world, we see how it's done in Canada, we see people who look at it. All
right, Barrister, we have to go. We have to go. Thank you very much. I love the input. I must thank you also for coming. We've had Mr. Obina Okorie, Johnson Bourne, and then Barrister Chukwuma Ezeala. I want to thank you very much for your time and insight.
Thank you so much.
All right. Nigeria stands at a crossroads, and the solution is the question we've been asking for our political challenges in the system. Could it be this 6-year term? That remains to be seen. That's our program for today. But before we go, we'll be leaving you with our top videos of the week. I'm Sunes Nathaniel. And until next time, remember to stay curious, stay informed, stay engaged, and keep beaming the light where it matters most. May Nigeria continue to rise and flourish. See you soon. We begin this week's countdown with a clip in which former governor of Ekiti State, Kayode Fayemi, tells President Tinubu that to be well-meaning is not enough when it comes to leadership. Next on the countdown is a video from an episode of Inside Sources where the chairman of the SDP, Alhaji Shehu Gabam, asserts strongly that President Tinubu cannot win re-election come 2027. In third place, we see a video from Sunrise Daily where popular Nollywood actor turned politician Kenneth Okonkwo says he is not a member of the Labour Party under the leadership of Julius Abure.
And we are saying, no, sir. If you don't have jurisdiction, the case is dead like dodo. That is the principle of law. Jurisdiction is the power of a court to determine a matter. So if a court does not have power to determine a matter by its own admission, then why are you giving an order from the back door?
Coming second on the countdown this week is a short documentary that takes us deep into the hidden world under Lagos bridges.
From those trying to get dinner to those breaking barriers and limits just to earn a living, life under the bridge is a testament to the human spirit's ability to thrive even in the most challenging circumstances.
At the top of our list is a clip from Sunday Politics where former lawmaker Senator Jimoh Ibrahim weighs in on the arguments surrounding BRICS and why President Tinubu would have no issue with President Trump. That's it on our countdown this week. Join us next week for more.